with, at least in relation to the entertainment industry, do you think that it was a result of trying to, quote unquote, sleep up the ladder?
A large amount, because I mean, here's the thing. Like, this, I'm going to try to say this in a non-insensitive way. In my opinion, any situation, there's probably a moment where a certain decision could be made by a woman to get out of that situation. And like, of course, if he was literally going into women's homes and kidnapping them and tying them up and bringing them to his house and raping them, okay, that's not what happened. Now, I'm not justifying anything he did.
Right.
But there's a reason that these women were even in this situation to begin with, and it's because they thought that he could make them a star. It was not okay for him to take advantage of that. In no way is that justifiable in any parallel universe. But this guy's this fat, balding, disgusting guy who...
Hey, wait, are you talking about me or Harvey?
Well, sorry, it goes for everyone. But
all right,
no,
fair enough. Fair enough.
I'm the same too.
Fair
no,
enough.
but he was
a lot of parallels there.
Yeah, so the point is, like, these women were there at his house or in his vicinity for a reason. And that reason was not because they thought he was nice or wanted to be his friend. That reason is because they wanted him to make them a star.
Right.
So, like, yeah, all of them. That's the answer. Like, how many of these women were there because they thought that they could sleep their way up the ladder? 100%.
And where do you think that Harvey really kind of screwed himself? Do you think that he was possibly offering women roles, sleeping with them, and then not following through with those specific roles? Do you think something like that might have been taking place?
Absolutely, and that's what I said about him making enemies. Like, that's the thing. Like, he went about it in such a haphazard, stupid, disrespectful way that, like, that kind of stuff happens in Hollywood all the time. And it's like, there are plenty of situations. I've seen a few of them firsthand where director meets actress. Director thinks actress has a nice ass. Director tells actress, if we're sleeping together, I'd love to cast you in something. Actress says, okay. They sleep together. He casts them in something. We never hear about it. That's the end of the story, And I mean, in the end, like, if you're going around saying you can only be in my movies if you sleep with me, that's not okay, first of all. Mm-hmm. And then second of all, if you're then going around and saying you can only be in my movies if you sleep with me, but then also not actually putting someone in your movie after they sleep with you, then it's a recipe for a disaster, and that's what happened with good old Harv.
I want to talk to you about another subject that, people are talking about all over the world, but certainly coming out of Hollywood, and that's Steven Spielberg's stepdaughter. I'll be honest with you, I didn't know that.
I know her.
Do you really?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, well, this is his stepdaughter. She's a porn star. I am one of those people I have no problem with if you're a stripper or a porn star. If you work at the Bunny Ranch, so long as what you're doing is legal, I see absolutely no problem with it. With that being said, I think we all could agree many people that are in the porn industry, not everybody, but a lot of people that are in the porn industry have either had some traumatic things happen to them when they were younger or maybe some drugs, substance abuse issues. Again, not everybody.
Or maybe they just like sex.
That's why I say not everybody. But with that being said, this is a sad story to me. And the reason why it's sad is because she's done an interview where she said that she has had some sexual abuse happen to her when she was younger. There's no question that's probably part of the reason why she's in the porn industry. Now, you knowing her personally, which I wasn't aware of that, what can you tell us about her, and why did she decide to come out and talk about this?
There is no more unanimously effed up demographic of people than the children of famous people. Let me just put it that way.
That's true.
These kids, because they grow up in this strange environment where it's like they're surrounded by people who are famous and people who are doing drugs and people who are doing weird sexual stuff, and they just are all messed up. Like, and I'm sorry to say it, and she's not an exception. And like, sure, I kind of get what you're saying with regard to like a lot of porn skanks. I mean, porn stars are like generally have had some trauma or something in their past, and that's 100% true. But like, a lot of them, it's like a cry for attention, and like, who knows? Her childhood was probably super weird and messed up, and she was with people like Harvey Weinstein were coming around and hanging out at the house. Like, I personally could care less. I don't even know why this is a story, to be honest. Like, if she wants to be a porn star or a porn producer or whatever she wants to do, fine. I don't care. Like, do whatever you want.
I think it's a story because maybe the implication is that someone that Steven Spielberg knows or knew might have sexually abused her in the industry. I think that's why
I
it's
have
a story.
no doubt that they might have. Things are weird. You got this, like, let's presumably say, cute young daughter who's always hanging around with these weird actors who are already weird in general. Actors are weird. They're the weirdest people. I deal with them day in and day out.
Can I ask you this, though? I ask you, who is your least favorite son or daughter of somebody famous that you can tell us on the air right now?
Oh, man. Well, I guess since I'm anonymous, I can let's say it rhymes with Boomer Billis, and I think you guys can probably figure it out yourselves. Her dad was at Nakatomi Plaza on Christmas in the 80s. Let's put it that way.
Oh wait, you must be talking about Boomer Esiason. No,
right,
I know.
I think he's talking about Hans Gruber.
That's who it was.
I'm pretty sure he's talking about the man who had Demi Moore for a little while. Yes.
I'll tell you.
Who I'm speaking. One of my favorite actors. Yeah.
Boomer Hillis has an interesting.
We could just say his name. This is ridiculous.
Facial structure. We'll put it that way.
Rumors. Yes, she's an odd-looking one. She looks like a drawing from the show Family Guy. She's a little like Quagmire.
I'm drawing a blank here.
That's very true.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High when he was younger. He's an Oscar-winning actor.
Sean Penn.
Sean Penn's son is a douchebag. Okay, he just is.
I mean, look at Sean Penn. That guy is like. He is an absolute lunatic. Like, that guy is going to be killed by terrorists or something at some point. I mean,
wasn't he hanging out with El Chapo a few years ago? Wasn't that a whole big controversy?
I kind of liked him in Milk, though.
He's a great actor, but that guy also, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to talk about Harvey. I mean, have you seen Sean Penn's girlfriend?
I have not, actually. No, I haven't.
Well, I have. I believe she's 23, and
Oh, wow.
Sean Penn is definitely 60 at least. He might even be older. I mean, he is a piece of work, that guy. I can't stand him.
So, Mr. X, you mentioned how actors are the weirdest people on earth. What makes them so weird? Why do you say that?
Before I say that, could we set up a pay-per-view fight between Sean Penn and James Woods, and we put these two geriatric guys in the ring and just pay? I would pay at least $50 to watch these guys. So
yeah, that's fair.
Isn't Woods early 80s?
I don't care. He could probably still kick Sean Penn's ass, to be honest. But he probably
he's definitely smarter than him.
Oh, his Twitter is one of my favorites.
Hey, I want to talk.
To answer JD's question, though, what makes actors so messed up? It's just a weird industry. You're pretending to be these different characters all the time. And I have a theory that you go out there and you train yourself or are a method actor and you pretend for 6 months or 8 months to be a hardcore drug addict, and you pretend to be a womanizer, you pretend to be a Nazi, and it just starts to mess with you, man. Like your brain, in order to put on a good performance, your brain has to listen to what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, let's talk about your buddy Donald Trump for a second, because I think this is a perfect example of what you actually just brought up.
Brains not
you just interrupted a very, very profound explanation.
Okay, well, let's.
No, it's fine.
I want to get his.
I'm going to ask you to continue.
I want to get his profound explanation on Parasite, the movie Parasite, because as you know, it won awards, the Oscars, and then Donald Trump said, by the way, how bad were the Academy Awards this year? He said the winner is a movie from South Korea. What the hell was that all about? We've got enough problems with South Korea with trade. And after all that, they gave them Best Movie of the Year. Well, the people from Parasite have fought back, and they said it's understandable. He said that because he can't read. What are your thoughts on that?
The Parasite filmmakers are probably right, to be honest. I mean, I think Trump probably can read, at least at like a fundamental level, like books like Go Cat Go and stuff like that. But his understanding of cinema, I think, leaves a lot to be desired. Parasite's amazing, and it's obviously Trump only says things, from a political perspective, and he's never gonna. Let's put it this way: if Bong Joon-ho at some point during the awards circuit had come out and said that he likes Trump would be praising that movie, no matter where it was made. It's pure politics with him. He doesn't care. He probably never even saw the movie, to be honest. So, it's not. his opinion on art. If you're listening to Donald Trump for movie suggestions, like I don't know what to tell you. Like
That's
I guess
true.
enjoy the Top Gun remake or whatever he likes.
That's true. That's a valid point. If you're just joining us, we're speaking with the Hollywood conservative, Mr. X. He is a supporter of.
I
Hold on.
I bet that Michael Bloomberg's favorite movie is Pretty Woman.
Let me just reintroduce Mr. X to our listeners. He is the Hollywood conservative. He is also a Donald Trump supporter, but doesn't give out his real name on the show because of the backlash people in Hollywood receive for being on the right, for being Trump supporters. I wanted to ask you, speaking of Trump again, I want to ask you a little bit about the debates that took place in Vegas the other night. I thought it was a very entertaining debate, Mr. X. I don't know.
The best comedy of 2020 so far.
It was entertaining. You know, I mean, it really was. Maybe that's not good for the Democratic Party, and maybe that's not good for the country. But I actually enjoyed it when Elizabeth Warren brought up the term horse-faced lesbians. Thought that was funny. I also thought it was great when Klobuchar was convulsing. She looked like she was a porn star herself when Buttigieg went after her for not knowing the president of Mexico. What was your take on the debate, and what did you think of it?
My take coming out of the Democratic debate is probably a hot take. I think this might be newsworthy itself. I think that the Democratic candidate is going to be Bloomberg.
After that debate, really? After that performance?
Here's the thing. These guys are all so stupid. I mean, like literally Buttigieg is the only one who seems to actually have something resembling a brain. I mean, Warren is a complete lunatic. Sanders is like a cartoon character. Biden, I was literally waiting for Biden's eyes to start dripping blood during the thing. He's just so sick. You know, Bloomberg is Trump part 2. And the most important thing is the guy's worth, what, $50 billion?
$65 billion.
He'll buy it. He'll just buy it. I mean, like, money is so important in this, and it's just such a factor. I mean, he'll just go and tell literally, he could just be like, if you elect me, I'm going to give every American $10,000, and he'll get, like, he's going to pull some crazy stunt like that because there's just no other option. Like, is it going to be Sanders? Like, I still just think that he's too radical.
Don't count out Joe Biden. Don't count out Joe Biden yet. I'm
counting out Joe Biden. Sorry, man.
Right,
that guy he's not going to make it to election day.
All right. Well, listen, if you asked me who is the best opportunity to beat Donald Trump, it would not be Bloomberg. I don't think Bloomberg is very good on the debate stage. Trump is, and he would destroy him, number one. I think the best person on that stage, maybe I'm a little biased, but you mentioned his name. I think the best person on that stage that would be fit to defeat Donald Trump would be Pete Buttigieg.
I agree with you, and he's actually my favorite of the Democratic candidates. I just don't know if he has the support, and I still do think, unfortunately, that there is a little bit too much deep-seated bias in places like the South where they just won't vote for a gay president.
Well,
they just won't.
I think that Pete Buttigieg would be the best one to debate Donald Trump. But, when push comes to shove, let's say he destroys Trump in a debate. It doesn't matter. He's still 37 years old. He was mayor of a town of 50,000 people. He has a little bit of military experience. I mean, he just isn't. He just doesn't have.
Well, hold on a second. Donald Trump had zero military experience. Donald Trump had zero experience in politics.
Has been involved.
Trump's a war hero. What are you talking about?
Yeah, a bone sport hero. That's what he is.
He's been involved in high level business for a long time. And again, 37 years old. At 37 years old, you haven't really seen the negative side of things. You haven't really been screwed over.
You can't compare the resumes when it comes to politics.
Of course, actually, yes, you can. No,
Pete Buttigieg is a war hero.
I think that foreign countries would have an issue with Pete Buttigieg, a gay man, being president of the United States. I think they would perceive us as weak.
If you want to make that statement, that's fine. But if you're going to
say
what
I was saying,
it's a combination
I think there's inherent biases, but also too, I think that Bloomberg actually has the best narrative to beat Trump because he's basically what Trump wishes he was. I mean, he's a self-made multi-billionaire. There's no rumors about him ever going bankrupt. There's he'll show his tax returns and we'll all just cry because I think that is, and honestly, this country right now and politics in this country are just pure anger. That's all it is. Eloquence, who cares? People don't care about that. That's not what they're interested in right now. They just like fighting and anger and being mean to each other. That's politics in America right now. And so I think that Bloomberg at least has that platform to be able to needle Trump to the extent of just like, look, like you're this guy, yeah, you're worth a little bit of money, and you know made it where you're at, but look at me. I mean, look what I've done. And I for whatever reason, and also, I mean, have you guys? I'm on. Be perfectly honest, I'm in prep on a movie, so I'm not like the most up to date on politics. But isn't there some rumors that it's going to go to like this brokered convention or something like that? Like, is that a possibility?
I didn't hear about that. That's possible. I don't know. That's not something that I've heard. But I guess anything is possible in this day and age in politics. So who knows?
I've heard a bunch about that,
Could
and
be.
I think if that happens, it'll be Bloomberg because he'll just buy everybody.
Well, I agree with you. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Bloomberg is going to be the guy. Listen, Bernie Sanders is the front runner, and I don't think many Democrats that are running the party, I don't even know who they want, but I don't think it's Bernie Sanders. I wanted to ask you something. We had a caller that called in that wanted to ask you about what is your favorite Bond movie? What would you say to that?
My favorite, I think, so I haven't seen them all, I'll be honest with you. I want to say my favorite, I think it was in or on Her Majesty's Secret Service. It was a Sean Connery one. And honestly, like, I'm not actually that huge of a fan of the Bond movies. Like, to me, they're all kind of the same. They're all great, you know, but not like exceptional. I actually really liked Casino Royale.
That's a good one.
Obviously, like, that's a more recent one, but Connery was my favorite Bond for sure. Like, I have very fond memories of watching, you know, all of those when I was a kid. And I want to make sure that because I liked Roger Moore as well. But yeah, I mean, they're not my favorite sort of genre or demographic of film, to be honest.
Mr. X, just back to the actors, the most weird actor you've ever encountered, and why? What made them so weird?
Well, I did a movie that I directed with David Arquette, and he was just a mess. I mean, he was incredibly coked up, and he was unable to really communicate. I mean, I guess that's not weird. Like, I spent a little bit of time.
Are you saying like autistic or Asperger's or spectrum?
He was just a nutcase. Like, he was just an angry, strange man. Directing him, he was talking to himself, and he was going outside to his car and sitting in his car, and I could see him yelling at no one, like the scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Leo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
Like, he was just a bit of a lunatic. I've spent a little time with Mickey Rourke. He was an oddball.
Mickey's a weird guy, but I don't think he's a bad guy.
He's not a bad guy.
Yeah.
He's just been through a lot, and so you know he's kind of a little bit of a jerk. But he's not. I don't think he means badly or anything. He's just kind of
great
kind
actor.
of
The Wrestler, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh yeah, I mean Mickey Rourke is. I mean, it has Evan Rachel Wood, who's my least favorite human on the planet, but you know it's definitely an amazing movie.
Fair enough. Again, he's Mr. X, the Hollywood conservative. All right, so what's going on this weekend in Hollywood? Where are some of the hot spots that you're going to be at? You're this hotshot producer. You know, are you going to hang it out on the Sunset Strip, Santa Monica Boulevard? What's going on?
Probably not. I'm actually binge watching a show right now that is the best portrayal of Hollywood I've ever seen. Literally, it's the show BoJack Horseman.
Oh.
Like it is so good, and it's an animated show about a talking horse, mind you, but it is phenomenal. It's about a has-been actor who was a horse who was on like a Family Matters type show in the 90s, and now he's just a loser. And it's so.
You reminded me of one of my favorite horse movies where the horse is talking. That would be Hot to Trot with the very famous and popular Bobcat Goldthwait.
Classic.
Yeah, the police academy.
I was thinking about Johnny Bananas with Johnny Drama.
Oh yeah,
Entourage. Yeah, Yep. And obviously Mr. Ed, which is the penultimate talking horse, drama. Yeah.
Well, listen, don't talk about Stormy Daniels that way. That's not very nice. Anyway, we have to go on break, my friend here, take a break,
All right.
pay the bills. But Mr. X, always appreciate it when you join us. The
Can't you
Hollywood
just ask
Conservative.
Bernie Sanders to pay your bills? Isn't that how it works?
What are you talking about? No, that was my Bernie Sanders impersonation.
That was
really,
pretty
really
good.
great.
I'll stick to Larry David for that. All right, Mr. X, thanks
All
for your
right,
time,
guys.
my friend.
See you later, Mr. X.
Catch up with you next week.
Bye.
He is Mr. X, the Hollywood
No,
Conservative.
you sounded like Adam Sandler in Hotel Transylvania, by the way.
Is that what I sounded
Yeah.
like?
What are you talking about?
We need minimum wage, $15 an hour. We need to take care of the middle class. I sounded a little Russian there. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, you're not there yet.
I can't do it. Larry David
No,
is
your
spot
voice
on.
your voice isn't low enough for it.
So what is this? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to do it. I don't know. I'm not a good.
That was your best one.
I'm not an impersonator.
By far.
I could do Barack Obama. Let me be clear. Let me be clear. That's my best, Barack.
You know, we could actually. I think we should do a segment at some point where we only do impressions because
That would be horrible.
I have some pretty solid impressions that I've just kind of kept. You know.
All right, you ready?
Kept in my back pocket.
Okay, ready? I got an impersonation. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
This is my impersonation of you the first hour and a half of the show. Was that a good impersonation?
Oh man,
I thought that was pretty good. That was spot on.
did you
wasn't it?
go to miming school?
I thought that was kind of funny at your expense.
Are you a Charlie Chaplin fan?
No, I'm not. I don't like anything.
I actually am. I think he's very talented.
We got to take a quick break. All right, when we come back, Mike Babcock, TMZ Sports Next. You are listening to the Vegas Take.
When we adopted Buddy, who is a lab, we didn't know that he can't eat like a normal dog. He has to eat sitting up. The vet said just put him down. His life expectancy maximum is 3 years. Well, he's 6 years old now, and I attribute most of that to Dynovite and a lot of love. DINOVITE.com. I heard about Dynovite on the radio and started mixing it in with his food, and it's changed everything.
Dynovite is nutrition.
Yes, he has a nice shiny coat. Yes, it helps with keeping a good, healthy weight on him. He's happy, he's healthy, and he's going to be with me for a long time because of Dynovite.
Dynovite for life.
We take him to the vet now, and they can't believe it. I love my dog. I want him happy and healthy, so I give him Dynovite.
You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
I get my Dynovite from DINOVITE.com.
Caucuses, Democratic presidential hopefuls are scrambling for cash. Correspondent Jeff Zeleny reports it's an effort to counter the war chest of Donald Trump.
The Trump campaign and the RNC raised $60 million in the month of January, $14 million more this week alone in California. So that is going to be the challenge here for whichever Democratic candidate wins the primary and how long that goes to compete against this machine that the Trump campaign is building.
The week-long countdown to the signing of a peace pact between the Taliban and the U.S. to end 18 years of war is getting underway. Correspondent Barbara Starr.
A 7-day period of a so-called reduction in violence supposed to go into effect. Taliban agree no attacks. If there are attacks, the U.S. military will quickly try to determine who was responsible.
Wall Street is retreating today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 241 points. The S&P off 40. I'm Ann Cates.
When we adopt
It's time to check the roads.
From the Letterman Road Traffic Studio.
This report sponsored by Upwork, when you need in-demand talent on demand. Paradise Road currently closed at Desert Inn Road for the presidential rally at Las Vegas Convention Center. Drivers can expect closures of Paradise between Desert Inn and also Elvis Presley, or take an alternate to get around like Maryland Parkway or Las Vegas Boulevard. And a crash reported on I-15 southbound at the 215 Southern Beltway on the Collector Distributor Road. Upwork has the largest network of independent professionals like designers, developers, data scientists, you name it. When you need in-demand talent on demand, Upwork is how. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
Right now, during the Best Mattress President's Day sale, save up to $500 on select Tempur-Pedic adjustable sets. #1 in the world in customer satisfaction. Plus, get 72 months no interest financing. Good, but we can do better. So we're also giving $300 instant store credit and free delivery. Hi, I'm Dave Mizrahi, owner of Best Mattress. And whether you're a Lincoln lover, Roosevelt rooter, or Fillmore fan, celebrate President's Day by saving money right now at Best Mattress, home of the Sleep Easy Guarantee. See store for details.
Sports
SportsX Radio Nation. What's up? It's Ken Thompson, host of SportsX Radio, reminding you to catch me at my new time, 8 to 10 p.m. for all the local Vegas sports coverage, plus the national scene as well. That's SportsX Radio on the new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.
Tina Trenner is back, and she's on 720 AM, 101.5 FM, KDWN, every Sunday at 12 p.m. She's sick of the nonsense and has something to say every Sunday at 12 p.m.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us on a Friday. Always interesting topics to talk about in the world of TMZ sports pop culture. And always a pleasure when we have this guy on the line with us. He is Mike Babcock from TMZ Sports. Mike, thanks for joining us. How's it going?
What's up, guys? How are you?
Doing good, Mike.
Apparently, we're doing a lot better than this pole vaulter who I wanted to talk, because I just watched the video of it. A pole vaulter who pierced his scrotum in this horrific accident. He needed 18 stitches, and I guess he goes to BYU. But I guess if he goes to BYU, he's not having much sex anyway. But what can you tell us about this?
So you're saying that he doesn't need his equipment anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this guy he's a 21 he's a 21-year-old BYU track athlete, and he was recording it. It was trending / I'm going to make a TikTok video, and he started. It seemed like a normal jump, and then the pole and the scrotum. And he really injured himself pretty badly. Obviously, had to go right away see a urologist and had to get 18 stitches, like you said, Brian. And he's okay now. He's just got a scar, but it's so sounds so painful.
So the boys are intact. Everything's okay.
The boys are right. The boys are intact, seemingly all the equipment. Thankfully, was able.
I'm glad that this pole vaulter is not a eunuch now. I'm very happy to hear that.
That is awful.
That's a scary situation.
I mean, I watched that video, and it's painful to watch. It is just the worst possible scenario for someone who is pole vaulting. Let's talk a little bit about this big fight. I know you're a big fight fan, Mr. Babcock. I'm actually going to the fight tomorrow. Tyson Fury, Wilder. This is a huge fight. So Wilder, Tyson said that Wilder ain't the hardest puncher. He said Klitschko hits harder. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, I was talking to him yesterday, Tyson Fury, and I asked him, a lot of people say that Deontay Wilder is the hardest puncher ever. He's got the highest knockout rate of any heavyweight, and he surprised me. I thought he was going to say he's a hard puncher or something like that, but he completely dismissed Deontay's power and even said, like you said, Brian, that Vladimir Klitschko hit harder. Obviously, those guys fought a couple years ago. Tyson Fury unanimously won that fight, but, there weren't a lot of big punches thrown during that fight, and we know from watching the first Wilder-Fury fight that Deontay, especially on that second knockdown when he landed those two heavy punches, those were big punches. So very surprising. I imagine that there's some gamesmanship here, and that Tyson Fury is just trying to get under Deontay Wilder's skin a little bit. I actually talked to Deontay a little bit after I spoke with Tyson, and Deontay got a kick out of it. He said that the Klitschko fight was one of the most boring fights that he'd ever seen, and basically was saying what Tyson Fury said about his punching power was complete BS.
And I agree. I think Deontay Wilder hit significantly harder than Klitschko ever did. So the Chiefs win the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, and apparently now Des Bryant has been seen catching passes with MVP quarterback Patrick Mahomes. Is that not one of the biggest embarrassment of riches of all time offensively for the NFL? If Des Bryant ends up a Chief with Pat Mahomes?
Oh, can you imagine? And Des Bryant hasn't played a down of football in the NFL since 2017, but he has made it very clear that he still wants to play. He's still in his early 30s, and he's stayed in shape. He obviously attempted to make the comeback and then had the serious injury as soon as he stepped on the field last year. But that's crazy. They're out there, working out together. Patrick Mahomes, on the football field again after a few weeks of partying since the Super Bowl. But you talk about an embarrassment of riches. If they were then to add Dez, That's a tough offense.
Well, speaking of embarrassment, that would be the disgraced Houston Astros. And now my understanding, the director of Screwball is thinking about making a movie about the cheating scandal. I'll tell you something. I would love to see it.
Yeah,
we
me
haven't
too.
had a really good baseball movie
Moneyball.
in a long. Yeah, that was a good one.
Moneyball was great.
I agree. That was a good one. It's been a little while though since Moneyball came out. So
with little Brad Pitt, as Donald Trump would say.
What do you make of this story about Corbyn coming out saying that he might make a movie about this?
Yeah, I think it's a great fit. Screwball, as you saw, I thought it was really well. It was well done. I like the way they used the kids in the movie, to portray kind of the characters. It was. I think it's something that Billy Corbyn knows well. He, big part of the Screwball documentary was obviously talking about Alex Rodriguez, and you remember back, Rob Manfred, who wasn't the commissioner at the time, was the guy who. Headed up that investigation. So I think Billy Corbyn is very familiar with Rob Manfred, and I do think that he is paying really close attention to what's going on here because I think he wants to make another movie. His first movie did well. It made a good amount of money for everyone involved, and obviously this Astros situation is something that it's just day in and day out. It never ends. It's just there's new information. There's somebody else blasting, baseball or the commissioner. Seemingly every day, and I think Billy Corbyn understands that this is something that people are interested in, and I do think he would probably will probably end up making a film about it.
Speaking of the Astros, I really think that what they did is so much worse than steroids or the Pete Rose situation, and I honestly believe that Jim Crane should be forced to sell the team at the 16 valuation. All the players that are involved should have a mandatory 1-year suspension. Manfred should be gone from Major League Baseball as commissioner, and they should vacate that title in 17. What do you think should actually happen to the Astros?
Yeah, I think Manfred one has done a terrible job, awful job, and once he's compounded his mistakes by making more mistakes
and doubling down.
It seems like he just cannot seem to get this right for some reason. I think with Jim Crane, I know there are a lot of people who doubt whether he didn't know, and obviously his story throughout this entire process has been that he had no idea that this was going on. I think it would be tough to take his team. It'd be impossible, and I think it would be wrong, frankly, to take his team if he actually didn't know, because you're an owner. You put people in charge to run your baseball operations, and you need to have faith and trust in those people. So I don't think it's then relying on the owner to know everything that's going on and to micromanage an entire organization that's worth billions of dollars. But it does come down to whether or not you believe that this guy knew. Seems a little fishy to me that he didn't know anything was going on when seemingly everybody in baseball had heard about these rumors. So it's hard for me to believe that nobody somewhere along the way mentioned anything to Jim Crane, and it's hard to believe. As far as the players, the year suspension, I don't like that they got away with it. These are guys obviously who you have Jose Altuve who won an MVP that he might not have won. We know Cody Bellinger said that, and there's been a lot of riches that these guys have kind of gotten off of this cheating. So it does bother me that they received no penalty at all and that they're going to play baseball this year and they still have their World Series rings. But the union is strong in baseball, and I don't know that there was any other way to conduct an investigation without being able to talk to the players. And I don't think they would have been able to talk to the players if they didn't promise them immunity. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. It's certainly Major League Baseball in an awkward position, but this hurts baseball. It hurts the Astros. It's hurt a lot of players' careers. There's no question about that. This story's not going away anytime soon. Last question for you, Mike. So there's a Donald Trump rally. Your favorite subject to talk about, by the way, Donald Trump, from what I understand. There is a rally that is about to begin at the convention center just a few miles from where we are at right now. And my understanding is that there was a rally earlier this week where Dana White showed up at the rally and showed his support for Donald Trump. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, in Colorado, President Trump called up Dana White and asked him what kind of a last-minute deal here if he wanted to take a ride on Air Force One, and Dana hadn't been on Air Force One before, and come over to a rally, and they went to Colorado Springs, and they had a rally in front of some Trump supporters, and I see some people who are, I guess, surprised that Dana White was sort of stumping for Donald Trump, but you got to remember that these guys have a relationship that goes back over a decade, and Dana White obviously has made the UFC into a multi-billion-dollar business. And Dana White believes that without Donald Trump and his support in the early days of the organization, that the UFC wouldn't even be around right now. But when the UFC was basically would not welcome anywhere, hardly any states. So they thought it was brutal. It was a brutal sport. Nobody wanted to host any of these events. New Jersey allowed these events to go on, and Donald Trump offered up his casinos. So he gave the UFC a place to hold these events, and now we obviously see what the promotion has turned into. So I don't think it necessarily means that Dana White believes every single thing that President Trump does, but I think that above any policies, that Dana White has a special place in his heart for Donald Trump. So I think that's why you will continue to see these guys side by side, and their friendship to continue, no matter what people say.
And I also think Dana White understands that if Donald Trump supports MMA, it's all around. It's going to be good for the sport, not bad for the sport. I don't think there's any question about that either. Obviously, Dana White being an extremely intelligent businessman. Mr. Babcock, you're an extremely intelligent man as well. We always appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian.
We always appreciate it when you come on and join us on the show. Have a great weekend, Mike, and look forward to catching up with you again next week, okay?
Cool. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Mikey.
Yeah, I won't hold it against Mike Babcock that he's a Trump supporter. I won't. All right, we're going to take a quick break.
I think you're starting to support Trump a little bit, Brian.
No, absolutely
I think it's happening.
No, he's a scumbag. That's not going to change.
Slow.
Nope.
It's slow, but it's happening.
I'm very frustrated.
I have to thank Brady, especially for being
I'm
part of that.
I'm very frustrated with the Democratic Party. They don't even know what the hell is going on.
How can you not be?
They don't know who they want to win. They have some lousy candidates, a few of them that I like, but the majority of them I don't.
Come on, the fact that the debate was just attacking a bunch of people who really don't have that big of names for themselves in the first place, instead of just attacking Donald Trump constantly. I mean, that's what they're running on, right? You have we'll call it 40% of the country that just literally despises Donald Trump. You don't just dislike Donald Trump; you despise him.
As a human being, I do. Yeah.
And no, but the people across the country are that they don't just dislike him; they literally despise him.
He's a horrible guy. He's a terrible human being.
And you're guaranteed to get those votes, but they're fighting each other for whatever reason, which makes no sense whatsoever. Instead of just focusing on the persona non grata, the enemy, the quote unquote enemy, which is Donald J. Trump.
It's certainly not to use a play from the right wing playbook, but it was a shit show at the Democratic debate. There's no question about that.
It was a bunch of giant egos, and that proves where the Democratic Party. That's why I think that the socialist. I really think the Democratic Party, and Mark Lauder said this yesterday. He said, "I do think that the Democratic Party will be replaced by the Socialist Party."
I don't think that's going to happen.
The communications, the strategic communications director for the President of the United States came on our show yesterday and straight up told us that if Bernie Sanders wins the nomination, the Democratic Party will be the Socialist Party.
Well,
that is a unbelievable thing.
I disagree. I disagree with that 100%, and that came from a Republican.
And you haven't talked to a lot of these millennials, like Goths for Bernie, for example, who are willing to hide behind causes they know nothing about simply to get free things from the government. You haven't talked to those people. There are millions of people like that now in America.
I have talked to plenty of people who actually do support Bernie Sanders, who do believe that $15 an hour minimum wage would work. People who do believe that free college would work for all. For people who do believe in what he says in regards to, taxing the top 1% and spreading the wealth.
Why would free college work for all? I mean, the whole point, if you go to a prestigious college, you get into a good law school, then your degree has more value.
That's one of his platforms.
All degrees would be worth the same amount. What would propel you at that point?
Well, I will tell you this, and you could disagree with me, but I'll tell you this. I would rather have Bernie Sanders running this country than a right-wing radical Christian. Hold on, let me finish. Than a right-wing radical Christian like Mike Pence, who is homophobic, anti-gay, don't tax the rich. Let's not care about middle-class America. Let's care about the extreme wealthy, ultra-religious right. I would rather have Bernie Sanders.
And then think about the education as far as the actual curriculum. It would be consistent. Every single school across.
Consistently no gays allowed in school.
No,
that's what
I'm
it would be.
I'm not talking about that. I'm saying with Bernie Sanders across the United States, every single college would teach the same curriculum. You'd have literally 50, 60 million people who are being taught and being fed the exact same thing by their professors.
Well, you're right about one thing.
In schools where the degrees don't actually change in value because everything is free. That is absolute insanity, and that is the direction to a dangerous communist country, in my opinion.
Let me tell you what I think is insanity, and let me tell you what I think is dangerous. When we ignore the mentally ill, when we ignore homeless, when we ignore people that are struggling to make it in society. Republicans want to run on this platform of pro-life, then be consistent with your pro-life. And what I mean by that is this: don't cut welfare, don't cut food stamps, don't cut unemployment. Hold on, be consistent with your pro-life. Now, I think it is dangerous when we live in a society where Walmart, for example, can make boatloads of billions and billions of dollars and then pay people $8 an hour. I find that to be utterly disgusting. Now, yes, there needs to be middle ground. I'm not necessarily saying I agree with $15.
No, $8 an hour is insane.
I'm not necessarily.
I agree with that.
Hold on, I'm not necessarily saying $15 an hour should be put through, but we need a livable wage for people.
I mean, there's situations that we're involved with as we speak right now where people are working very, very hard doing something kind of difficult, and they're getting paid $10 an hour.
Here's the problem.
That is existing right now as
JD,
where we are.
Here's my issue, right? We have an extreme on one side and an extreme on the other side. We can all agree Bernie Sanders is very extreme to the left, and we can also agree that there are many Republicans out there that are extreme to the right. We need middle ground in society. Get me $12.50 an hour or $13 an hour where somebody could at least make $25,000 a year. That's enough to at least support yourself. It's not a great way of supporting yourself, but put some food on the table where maybe a mom and a dad could make a household income of $50,000 a year, which is enough to get a family by. It's not living lavishly.
It is not enough to get a family by in any major city across the United States, except maybe Cincinnati.
Outside of a major city.
Not even in Vegas does $50,000 a year work for you.
$50,000 a year is enough for you to pay rent, whether that be $800-900 a month. You can get by. The point I'm trying to make is that there are extremes on both sides of the aisle. Bernie Sanders on one side and many Republicans on the other side. There needs to be middle ground, and if Bernie Sanders could get a little bit more moderate, which he never will, then I think he would be more electable. Now, he might win the Democratic Party. I don't think he's going to, but he might. He's not going to defeat Donald Trump. That's just not going to happen.
I agree, but the point is, once he wins that Democratic nomination, socialism will have to be the next thing. And then AOC, who is probably even more left than Bernie Sanders, which is impressive, she has charisma, she's young, she's attractive, she has ideas, she is a minority, and she is a woman. She has a real chance of being the next president or the next candidate to go after whoever is going to run on the Republican Party. I think it might be Ivanka Trump in 2024.
I completely
AOC is building a big name. Why is that crazy?
I'll tell you why.
If Bernie Sanders wins, if Bernie Sanders wins the Democratic nomination and the party becomes socialist, AOC is the next.
I'll tell you why.
Because Bernie Sanders will be 90 years old by the time in 2024.
I'll tell you why I completely disagree with you. First of all, there are a lot of people in her own party that can't stand her. I'm not saying there's not people in the Democratic Party that don't like Bernie Sanders either. But even Nancy Pelosi has gotten at odds with her. I think she has no chance of becoming a president one day. I don't think she's smart enough. I certainly don't think she's smart enough. All right, we'll take one quick phone call, then we got to go to break. Let's go to Anthony. Anthony, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hey guys, I think that our nominee is going to be Joe Biden. I don't think that Bernie Sanders is electable. Right, 24% your base, not electable. I don't think he'll win any states.
You don't think he's going to win Nevada?
He might win Nevada. He might win Nevada.
I think he is.
But I don't think he'll win. I don't think he'll win any other states. He might get close in California, but I think after that, it's White House. I think it's going to be Joe Biden.
I agree with you on this. I don't think he's going to be the nominee for the Democrats.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't. 75% of the party hates him. He has 24%.
I think it is.
75% is broke up.
I think Bloomberg is done. I disagree with anyone that thinks Bloomberg has a shot. I thought his debating skills are pathetic. I think it's going to come down to two people. And I agree, if it's not Bernie Sanders, it's either going to be Joe Biden or Pete Buttigieg. That's the way I see it. I could be wrong.
I don't think Buttigieg has experience. So, no.
Well, you don't have to have experience to win. Just ask Donald Trump how that worked out.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But I think Joe Biden answered questions like on Afghanistan. I answered questions on he asked the question, would he go after Trump if he was to win? And he said no, because that's not the president's job. The president doesn't go after people, for elections. Doesn't go after people. Doesn't run a DOJ.
Yep.
Right.
No, I hear you.
Good answer.
Yeah, no, listen, Anthony, I hear what you're saying, and I think we both agree on the fact, and thank you for the phone call, by the way. I think we both agree. I don't think Bernie Sanders is going to be the guy, and if he is the guy, he has absolutely no chance of defeating Donald Trump. I think many of those candidates on that stage have very, very little chance. I'm going to stick by my guns and say I think Pete Buttigieg is the only person with an outside shot at Joe Biden. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, It's time for the hate mail segment of the day. That's right. We get hate mail every day, and our producer, Jason Stein, it's his favorite time of the show. He's going to be joining us next with some of that hate mail coming back. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you. Printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-501-3689 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-501-3689 for your free author submission kit. Again, 800-501-3689.
Imagine crossing a street busy with traffic. Against the light.
Watch where you're going.
Wearing a blindfold. Would you do this? Probably not. It's one risk obviously not worth taking. Some risks aren't as obvious, yet could be just as deadly, like the risk for type 2 diabetes. If you're overweight or over 45, if you're not very active, or don't eat as healthy as you should, there's an easy test you can take to find out your risk. It's free, and in less than a minute, you'll know if you're at risk for this deadly disease. Just go to diabetes.org/takethetest or call 1-800-DIABETES. Because type 2 diabetes is one risk you can't afford to take. Take the diabetes risk test and stop diabetes before it stops you. A message from the American Diabetes Association.
Maybe it's time to take a fresh look at everything we thought we knew about landing a great job. For instance, what if phenomenal careers start at the middle school science fair instead of at the job fair? If being the captain of the robotics team means just as much on a college application as being captain of the football team. And if knowing the quadratic formula is every bit as important as knowing the right people. Well, the fact is, the jobs of the future will be heavily geared towards science, technology, engineering, and math. In other words, the future is STEM. More opportunities, better pay. And the road to these great jobs starts as early as middle school. So if you're a student, talk to your school counselor about STEM. If you're a parent, talk to your kids. Because the job you'll get in the future may very well depend on what you do today. A public service message from America's Navy.
When Allstate agents and employees go to work every day, their number one priority is protecting what matters most to you. For military veterans, that instinct to protect also comes naturally. No wonder thousands of veterans build good careers with Allstate. And now, Allstate is ranked the number one employer on the 2020 Military Friendly Employers list. You're in good hands with Allstate.
For career opportunities or to get a quote, contact Allstate today. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
All right, welcome back. It's the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. It's amazing some of the conversations we have off the air. I remember when the Adult Entertainment Expo was in town, we had a guy show up in studio talking about the sex pills that he had. And so we've been giving out some samples, and I'm too afraid to take them myself. I'd probably die of a heart attack. So we've had some DJs and some people in the building that have taken some of these pills, and we're getting these wild reviews. They're getting great reviews.
Yeah,
These pills work.
I thought Matt Long was very educated. He really knew his product well.
For those of you who don't know who Matt Long is, Matt Long was the guy who came in that was selling the pills.
From Free Sex Pills,
Yeah.
that's with a Z.
Yeah.
Free Sex Pills.
So we're just
It sounds made up, but it's true.
Very,
This
very
is the
true.
guy who said, "Is it safe?" He said, "Is it safe to take these?" He goes, "I don't know. You just got to drink water."
But apparently they work. All right, so it's time for the hate mail segment of the day.
Yeah.
It's the favorite time of the show for our producer when people make fun of me. Go ahead, Jason. What are people talking about
We
me
call it
today?
hate mail. It's not actual mail. It's comments that scroll alongside their YouTube page, but it sounds better if we say hate mail. Okay, today. You know what? By the way, new policy: not naming these people anymore. I'm not giving them the attention anymore.
Okay, good.
Okay, yeah. But I'll just read the.
I'm not a huge fan of that.
Yeah, well, all right, fine. Let's do it. Nerman writes, "I peek my head in daily in hopes to see Brian is not on the air. Well,
that's a really bright, intelligent thing to do. Hey, Nerman, or whatever the hell your name is, I'm the host of the show, dumbass. Do you tune into the Howard Stern show and then you say, well, Howard was hosting today. What a shocker.
When I think Nerman, I think Thurman Merman from Bad Santa.
When I think Nerman, I think of somebody that doesn't have a job, that lives in his mom's basement with nothing better to do with his time than to comment on our YouTube page and make fun of us. That's what I think.
Do they have basements in Nevada?
I don't think he was really making fun. He was just expressing, his preference for who hosts the show and it not being you.
Yeah. There's the same guy who probably knocks Pete Buttigieg for being gay, but yet he wants to comment on another man's looks who does a radio show. Go ahead, Stein.
I think that's a solid correlation.
Go ahead.
Francois McKay writes, I find
our athletic director?
Yeah.
Oh.
Writes, I find that this radio host has a very nasally, irritating voice. Why was he hired on?
I find that this guy who's talking about my voice probably has small Donald Trump fingers when he types. Go ahead.
Drunker Moreno. I would like to buy all your listeners a drink. $20 should cover it, huh?
That's not even funny.
I actually thought that was kind of funny.
I don't even know what that means.
Well, they mean that we have a small audience.
Right.
And if
we have like 3
$20
listeners.
we could buy everybody a drink for $20. That is funny.
I thought that was funny.
I don't know. I mean, this is the same person who listens to our show every day, so she's a part of the problem, I guess. The fact that we actually do have a lot of listeners. Go ahead.
Ger Goldner, is Michael, because it's always about Michael Avenatti.
Right.
Is Michael Avenatti calling in today? I have a question about his child support obligations. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what was his name again?
G.R. Goldner.
G.R. Goldner, I have a question for you. I have a question to you. I wanted to talk to your attorneys about your child porn. Go ahead, Stein.
By the way, Avenatti is out of solitary.
That's good.
That's an
news.
exclusive that came right from his attorney. We're the only outlet that has that information.
And G.R. Goldner, thank you for saying thank you. Really appreciate your politeness. Thanks a lot.
A little bit, passive aggressive, but whatever.
Go ahead, Stein.
Nerman again. I would much prefer to listen to Chris Wynn than have this angry a-hole Brian hashtag, and this is hopefully will be trending soon. Hashtag get Brian off the air.
Ooh, get me. I wonder how he's going to try to do that. I wonder how he's going to picket outside the station by himself.
Funny you mentioned that because Nerman then also followed up a couple minutes later with another comment.
Yep.
I will make it my life's work to have Brian removed from this radio station. I will organize multiple pickets out front of your sponsors' businesses. Hashtag get Brian off the radio.
All right. So for the record, please picket outside the nearest sex shop. That would be our sponsor. All right, Stein. Thank you. Oh, he pulled a Pelosi.
Really good.
He pulled a Pelosi.
You're getting more efficient with those.
Well,
those tears.
If I was Matt Gaetz, I would now file criminal charges against you. We're going to take the weekend off, folks. We'll see you bright and early on Monday. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Sean Hannity coming up next. Have a great day, everybody.
Your home for Sean Hannity, KDWN Las Vegas, KKLZ HD2 Las Vegas, a Beasley Media Group station.
Teen trial, Bar and Republic.